So, Joan and Sam, did you see the president and his presser with angel moms and angel families?
Yeah, I did watch that.
Oh, my goodness gracious. It was impactful. You know what's interesting? The last interview, we had a guy from the Hill, covers Congress and so forth, and he had mentioned the polling of Donald Trump. And a guy on the super text line, I don't know why, but he thought that was some sort of a challenge at me. He said, he just said that Donald Trump is, going to experience some challenges. And I'm like, yeah, I don't understand why is that an aha moment? I mean, I've been honest about the polling. Whether or not you believe in the polling is up to you. But between, some of the gerrymandering that's been going on and some of the things that Donald Trump has been experiencing and some of the pushback that the president has been experiencing, yeah, you know what? The Republicans right now, heading into the midterm elections, they do have to campaign like they are the underdogs because they are dealing with the Democrats. And as we all know, the Democrats will stop at nothing to gain power. And then what they're going to try to do, not only impeach Donald Trump, I didn't have a chance to get into it with the guy from the Hill, but not only will they impeach Donald Trump, but they're also going to try to, force investigations, ultimately try to charge some of the people from the Trump administration. That's coming. And so if the Democrats end up in the House of Representatives where a lot of these investigations start, I mean, it's just going to be 2 years of that nonsense. But it's interesting, Joan, because while I fully acknowledge that the president and the polling doesn't look good, whatever, he's still very popular within the Republican Party. And I believe that yesterday is a great example as to why. As he was meeting with all of these angel moms and angel families. And so I want to play you some audio. I don't know how much. Did you see the whole thing? Did you see the police officer who had originally arrested the guy that ultimately killed Laken Riley?
Oh.
Did you see that part?
No, I didn't.
This was so incredible.
Oh.
And so this is the moment that Donald Trump had the former New York Police Department officer who said that he was the one who arrested the illegal alien who eventually killed Laken Riley when he served in New York. Stop me, friends, when you've heard this before. The Democrats released him. I mean, how many times do we unfortunately have to say that this person would be alive if the Democrats had not released these people back out onto the street? Listen.
Mr. President, it's an honor to be here today, and it's an honor to be speaking with you guys. My name is Ethan Carreri. I'm a police officer in Palm Beach County, Florida, and a former New York City police officer. While serving the New York City Police Department, I personally arrested Jose Ibarra for endangering the welfare of a child. A few months later, I saw his face again in the news after he viciously murdered Laken Riley. I did my job. I put him in custody. The system failed. No detainer, no accountability, no deportation, and an innocent American life was taken. If you enter our country illegally, there will be consequences under this administration. The American citizens must always come first. To Laken Riley's family, your loss should have never happened. We owe it to you and every American family to enforce our laws, secure our border, and protect innocent lives. Mr. President, thank you so much for having me here today, and thank you for all you've done for our country. Thank you.
I mean, just obviously an incredible moment. There were many incredible moments, as a matter of fact. And, for President Trump to give these people a voice and honor those that have been killed by illegal aliens that Joe Biden allowed into our country. This is why it's interesting. This is why I get so perplexed at polling. Again, if you believe the polling. But this is why I get so perplexed at the polling sometimes, because we went through such hell during the presidency of Joe Biden. And so, and I know that I've interviewed people and they talk about the fickleness of the American people and the American voters. I get that. When you look at the worst that we saw it under Joe Biden, where we had Rachel Marin, Laken Riley, so many other people killed by illegal aliens. And I know that I'm not the first one. This is not the first time that I've said this. But the absolute gall of the Democrats, where they have the audacity to absolutely freak out about the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, did not and will not say a thing about Laken Riley or Rachel Marin or others that were killed. That's only two. I've lost. Will you, Sam, will you look up for me how many innocent Americans were killed by illegal aliens just during the Biden administration? Because I've got old man disease. So there's Rachel Marin, Laken Riley. It's hard to remember the 12-year-old's name. Do you remember the 12-year-old's name, Joan?
Nungary, Jocelyn Nungary.
Jocelyn Nungary. Thank you, Joan. I can always count on Joan.
I don't have old man's disease.
No?
No. Yet.
Anyway, you know what I almost said, Joan? Something about old woman's disease, but then I thought better of it.
You reeled it right back in.
Good flash job. Hot at you?
No, I did not want that. Do we have a number on that? How many Americans were killed by illegal aliens during Joe Biden's reign? We're waiting for Grok. You know, Joan, it is so many that it's taking Grok a little bit of time to come up with that answer. I'm going to spare everyone the suspense. It's a lot. And, of course, those deaths continued into Donald Trump's administration because as he is trying as he might to deport all these folks, the sad reality is, number one, the Democrats are standing in the way. And number two, sadly, it is not as easy as it should be to deport people. By the way, the mother of Laken Riley also had some very impactful statements to say yesterday as Donald Trump was honoring the fallen and honoring the families, the angel families, yesterday in the White House. So I'm going to play some audio of that as well. Again, very touching audio. So apparently I was asking how many people were killed by illegal aliens during the reign of Joe Biden. All Sam can tell me, Joan, is that it's a lot, but it doesn't actually give a number.
Yeah, it just spit out a table of 26. So it's just these are the high profile. It's got Laken Riley on here, Jocelyn Nungary on here, Aiden Clark, 11-year-old boy killed in a school bus crash caused by Hermanio Joseph, a Haitian illegal migrant. Rachel Marin that we mentioned, Melissa and Riordan Powell.
And it's a very long list.
It's all over the country. It's
right.
It's not discriminate to any one area. You've got Florida, you've got California, Minnesota, right. Ohio, Maryland, Texas, Washington. It's kind of all over the place.
Well, because remember, let's just say California. California, sanctuary state, Los Angeles and San Francisco, sanctuary cities. So they go to those cities, they get set up, and then they're free to go anywhere in the country. So I got to tell you that, I mean, yeah, that maybe there is no actual number except just to say a lot. We'll keep searching for the actual number.
How do you trust some of these local jurisdictions to categorize it? For crying out loud, they put people in the system as white.
That's a great point. I mean, how many times have we talked about the fact that they don't give real numbers to the FBI in those local jurisdictions? I want to play some audio. This is Allison Phillips. And she was invited up by Donald Trump to speak about her daughter, Laken Riley.
This is unexpected, but I think that a lot of people feel like that President Trump is maybe different than the version I've gotten to know. And I just can't thank you enough. You have said from the beginning, literally the day after this happened, that you would not forget about Laken. You weren't president at that time, and you have not forgotten. You have fought a fight that most people would not want to have to fight. Most people wouldn't. They would just say it's just easier not to do this. And President Trump you are doing a thankless job that most people just wouldn't do. And I just can't thank you enough. There are just not enough words to say. Because if you've lived the nightmare that we have lived, you understand the importance of the job that he's doing and securing our nation and fighting for our families, because this could be any family. This happened to my family. This could be any one of your families.
Boy, she is absolutely right. And she had a lot of great comments. Allison Phillips, Laken Riley's mother. And part of the importance of this, and I've said this a lot about Donald Trump, actually, where you have the Democrats and they're always screaming about the president. But, if you really take a step back and you think about the number of lives saved by President Trump. I mean, I've said it before. I'm not going to dwell on this because I run the risk of repeating myself. But, Joan, you and I have spoken about it many a time, where Donald Trump sending in the National Guard to a place like Washington, D.C., or all of those various agencies going into Memphis. How many lives Donald Trump has saved by stopping all of that gang violence, by these law enforcement surges going into these cities, these once violent, horrific cities. And now there's a lot of people that are currently alive that wouldn't have been had Donald Trump either not done what he did or was prevented from doing. It's the same thing with all of these people that Donald Trump is trying to round up and send out of our country. It's only the Democrats that are trying to prevent Donald Trump from saving lives, like, unfortunately, Laken Riley. It was too late for her. But there's a lot of people that are alive thanks to what Donald Trump is doing, which is, number one, trying to deport a lot of these illegal alien bad guys, the bad hombres, and shutting down our southern border.
And Laken was the most responsible, hardworking, kind, selfless, beautiful Christian. And she wasn't somebody that put herself in bad positions. She didn't make bad choices. She was just a good girl. And she just wanted to go for a run that morning after she'd gotten up at 4 o'clock the morning before to decorate her roommate's door for her birthday. And she did everything for everyone else. She expected nothing in return.
That is Laken Riley's mother. And Joan, you were going to say something. I'm going to, if you want to see the entire video, I'm going to go ahead and repost this. Follow me on X at Dan Mandis Show. And of course, horrifyingly, in one press conference, you've got the officer that originally arrested Laken Riley's killer. The Democrats let him go. And now you have Laken Riley's mother talking about the tragedy and the horror that was Laken Riley's murder. What were we going to say?
Did you know that President Trump paid for Patty Morin, Rachel Morin's mom? Patty Morin needs eye surgery, and he paid for the eye surgery. And he talked about that during the press conference yesterday.
Did he really?
Yep.
That is so.
He said
that is so Donald Trump.
It is.
Hold on, I found the audio. Actually,
good.
This is Donald Trump talking about paying for the eye surgery of Patty Morin.
And hello, darling. How are you? No, right behind you. Look, my friend. Right? Are you okay? Yes, you. Are you okay? Are you okay? Good. Good. Are your eyes okay? I gave her money to get her eyes fixed. A lot of money to get her eyes fixed. That doctor ripped me off, but that's okay. And when do you go? Wednesday. Well, you get them done.
Well, that is the Trumpiest thing ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was talking to somebody the other day about how Donald Trump just randomly does things for people.
Yep.
And he's been doing that for years and years and years and years. I wonder how many eye surgeries of just regular everyday Americans that Joe Biden or Barack Obama paid for.
Yeah.
Or Kamala Harris.
Crickets.
Oh, absolutely crickets. I was reading some of the experiences of people that have been in Mexico with all of this chaos going on. And there was one tale of a couple of people from Nashville, actually, and they'd gone snorkeling, I guess, in Mexico, and the chaos started, and the buses and the taxi cabs wouldn't actually take them to their hotel. And so these girls, again, I think one of them is a nursing student here in Nashville, they wouldn't take them into what was being described really as a danger zone. And so their phones are low on power. They are probably, 15, 20, 25 minutes walking distance to their hotel, and they were stuck. And that's what happened to a lot of people. Luckily, they were able to make it back to their hotel, but it was a harrowing tale. I do want to welcome on into the program retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton. And you are well experienced in a lot of these kinds of things that we're hearing about, and I do appreciate you being with us. I mean, I know that you've been keeping track of what Americans have been going through in Mexico after the killing of El Mencho.
Good morning, Dan. Good to be with you. Absolutely, and that is a harrowing experience, not only for these young ladies from Nashville, but I'm sure thousands of Americans stuck and actually ordered to shelter in place by the Department of State and the U.S. Embassy in Mexico. But this is the biggest blow that the Mexican government has ever struck against a criminal group in Mexico. And this El Mencho they mentioned is perhaps the most renowned, most important drug trafficker kingpin, and the fact that he's off the map right now is significant. We can get into that, but nonetheless, it was a harrowing experience, and I think that will be for future travel for the Americans, especially in this part of Mexico, will continue to be harrowing as the Mexican government deals with now the aftermath of the violence going on between the Mexican army and their law enforcement authorities and remnants of not only this cartel, but other cartels in the region and certainly in Mexico.
One of the things I thought was interesting is that no Americans, at least as far as I know, now maybe something has changed, but there were no Americans that were killed. I actually read one account where an American was in a vehicle and one of these, I don't know what you call them, one of these drug people that worked for El Mencho ordered the Americans out of the car so that he could light it on fire. So it seems to me like, I don't know, it seems like there was a lot of Americans, if they wanted to kill Americans, they could have. There were some accounts that they were hunting Americans, but as far as I can tell, do you think that they went out of their way not to kill Americans, so not to escalate, or how do you think that all went down?
I think they did. I think the point of your question is spot on. They don't have perhaps a war against Americans. In fact, the largest frankly customer base are those using their drugs in the United States, and we can get into that as well. But really their conflict is with the Mexican government, especially with President Sheinbaum, who has really put on the pressure on these Mexican drug cartels, pressured from the Trump administration for Mexico and President Sheinbaum, and she's only been in office for just a year and a half or so, to put pressure on these Mexican drug cartels, which are causing havoc to Americans with the highest export of fentanyl into the United States, worth billions of dollars, as well as human trafficking aspect of this. So the threat for Americans is not being targeted by this particular cartel or the remnants of the cartel now after El Mencho, but only in the fact, and that's why the embassy is telling American citizens to hunker down. We could be caught in the crosshairs between violent actions between the Mexican army and the law enforcement and the cartels, but so far. But I would advise our Americans to continue to abide by the U.S. Embassy protocol of hunkering down, but also for Americans to really consider twice whether or not to travel to Mexico, especially that part of Mexico.
Oh, it's crazy. One of the biggest questions I noticed, not only online, but here on WTN and also some folks on television said it as well. Knowing the problems that Mexico has right now with these drug cartels, why would anyone go to Mexico in the first place? I mean, is that a fair statement?
That's a very fair statement. I would advise my family members and loved ones perhaps just to put that on pause right now. The possibility, however, of Jalisco cartel, that's the cartel that El Mencho led. It's one of the most powerful, most prominent drug cartels in the region, much less in the world, and is a threat to the American people and has been designated, Dan, a foreign terrorist organization by the Trump administration. But the possibility of the Jalisco cartel now carrying out larger violent actions, either inside for its own competition, internal to this drug cartel, but also amongst other drug cartels, but certainly as it faces still now a growing looming threat against the Mexican government. So that's what we're going to see play out here. So this is much more to follow, I believe, and hence the threat to American citizens.
Retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton talking about the chaos in Mexico. There were, and I don't know how deep you want to get into the politics going on in Mexico, there is a senator in Mexico named Lily Tellez, and her accusation against Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum is that she has been acquiescing to the cartels, and she's really basically essentially cooperating with the cartels. And I was trying to figure this out because you've got this senator making these claims against Sheinbaum, but you've had Claudia Sheinbaum. She's given, 26 cartel members to the Trump administration, and Mexico's military just took out this cartel leader El Mencho. So I don't know. Do you have a gauge on President Sheinbaum and sort of where she is in her allegiance with the Mexican people or the cartels?
I think results matter under President Sheinbaum's leadership and very stern leadership. She has now taken down the most important, most visible, most well-known narco trafficker leader in Mexico, who's been on the hunt or has been on the run for years. So this is significant. She also realized when she did this that it's not going to necessarily just fix the illegal drug trafficking, in Mexico and the United States and so forth, but it's going to, create other challenges for her leading Mexico, not only in the near term, but the long term. And there's threats to her own life. So I see her as a brave head of state taking this on finally. She's the first really to do this, going after the leaders of the Mexican drug cartels, this being the most important, this most violent leader. And so she knows the stakes. So I think the fact is also that she is backed up by President Trump. And the fact that the Trump administration is putting pressure on her administration, yes, to take action is noteworthy, but also what's happened between Sheinbaum's administration and Trump's administration is a growing, stronger relationship in terms of our national security teams. Specifically on the U.S. side is a joint interagency task force counter cartels, which is led by the commander of U.S. Northern Command. So that's also very important moving forward. So I think we're going to see more action. We're going to see more cooperation between the United States and Mexico. And I think we're going to really, in the coming weeks and months, look back and admire her strong leadership here at this very moment. Now, it's going to be hard moving forward, but nonetheless, I'm a little bit more optimistic today than I was on Saturday. Let me put it that way.
I think that I was never in the military. I think that would have been a demotion.
You know what? I had all ranks from actually cadet basic at the Air Force Academy all the way to lieutenant general. One of my best tours of duty was as a lieutenant colonel commanding the 393rd Bomb Squadron B-2 stealth bombers. So I'll take that anytime, Dan.
All right, very good. So let's talk about what is next for the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. At least that's what they call it. So I consider these guys, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but there's always going to be another dirtbag to take over these cartels. Is that a correct statement to make? And I guess more broadly speaking, what's next for this cartel?
Well, think in terms of this particular cartel, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, but other 2 or 3 cartels in Mexico as well. We don't think of them as just, these are not illegal organizations or crime bosses and crime organizations. These are paramilitary organizations that have a set chain of command. They have military capabilities such as rocket launchers, and they have access to helicopters and drones and so forth. So what I anticipate, and my sources tell me, is there will be a significant fight to who will replace El Mencho. I understand that number one at bat right now in line would be his son-in-law, who would be just as ruthless and just as evil and just as violent and just as focused on the, moving forward with the aims of this drug cartel. Because we're talking not hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars involved here, Dan. We're talking billions of dollars. So this is a very broad, very impactful paramilitary narco-trafficking drug organization. They will look to fill its ranks with leaders, as well as there will be likely other cartels trying to fight against this, Jalisco cartel because of the loss they've garnered with regard to the killing of their leader. So you've got a couple things going on. You've got internal into Jalisco cartel, certainly for a fight for leadership. You also have between the drug cartels, you're going to have them trying to move up into stature and to gain more leverage for more, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars more. And then you've also got the Mexican government led by President Sheinbaum and backed up by the Trump administration to fight these cartels. So lots going on here, and lots will be happening in the next not only several days, but several weeks and months.
How does this impact China, if at all?
I think it's a wake-up call for China. Again, this is where the United States has shown its leadership, shown its moxie, if you will, in backing up a key friend of ours and on our border with Mexico. China is responsible for providing a number of the chemicals that go into drug making, specifically into fentanyl. And there are their own illegal, organizations providing the source, as I mentioned, of these chemicals to the drug cartels to manufacture and so forth. So I think for China, it will also, they notice that the United States is really, as we have refocused on the Western Hemisphere with the Trump administration published national security strategy back in December, focusing on the Western Hemisphere. But China's also taking note in terms of our snatch and grab of Maduro on January 3rd and his wife. Also, where we are supporting Israel back in June with that air campaign, and certainly led by the United States B-2 stealth bombers, taking out Iranian, some of their key nuclear weapons development sites and so forth, and the mapping of U.S. forces facing Iran right now in the Mideast. So China's taking note of all those things, but they're specifically with regard to Mexico and how Chinese, that provide these chemicals for fentanyl drugs are taking broad note as well.
All right. So real quick, we have a lot going on in Mexico, obviously. I'm curious as to your opinion on this. Remember a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was only a week ago now, time flies, but where there was this closing of the airspace over El Paso and all that. Do you think that has anything to do with what we saw a few days ago in Mexico, as far as, we were providing intelligence, as you know, to Mexico and Claudia Sheinbaum. So as far as the cartels go, do you think that the closed airspace over El Paso may have had anything to do with what we saw in taking out of El Mencho?
No, certainly not directly. What we found in El Paso was really miscommunication between a couple of government agencies, specifically the U.S. military, Department of Homeland Security, and specifically the Department of Transportation and Federal Aviation Administration when we were testing anti-drone capabilities in and around the El Paso area. And so the concern was, and I think the FAA, head of the FAA took the right appropriate action because they didn't know what was going on with regard to this equipment that was being tested and employed as anti-drone capabilities emanating in that area. So I think they're not related, but it also shows the focus, however, indirectly or directly, if you want to take it that way, of U.S. focus on the border, U.S. focus on securing the border. And if these cartels, and they are trying to cross borders either through on the ground or through drones and threaten the American people, we will take action.
Last question here. Okay, so of course we are going to, in our remaining moments, assuming we're going to continue to provide Mexico with intel, are we going to focus just on the Jalisco New Generation cartel, or is your prediction that we're going to start going after all of the cartels?
Much broader. I think the fact that we killed, or Mexico killed the leader of the Jalisco cartel in El Mencho, that's a wake-up call, not necessarily just for that specific cartel. However, is the most violent, most extreme, perhaps most powerful drug cartel. But other drug cartels also contribute to threatening American citizens. And the flow, again, of drugs across the border, human trafficking across the border, and so forth. We will continue to try to deter, dissuade that, but also defeat that in our support to the Mexican government. So I believe all cards are now on the table, not just Jalisco cartel, but the other cartels as well.
How do we get, and I know I said last question, but you're a great interview. So how do we get the people that are still stranded in Mexico out? Like, are things slowly getting back to normal?
I think they will slowly get back to normal. I would advise our American citizens there and their family and loved ones who are back home and perhaps even listening to this show just to use patience. The American Embassy in Mexico and our consulate is all over this. It's a very difficult situation, but stay close and take the advice of the American Embassy to shelter in place. And also to have a plan. Once you're able to exit Mexico, execute that plan. That would include travel. I would not recommend, again, I'm not there, but if you've got air travel available to you, take it. And as soon as you can, take it and get home.
And don't go back to Mexico, right?
I wouldn't say a blanket order that, but again, if I were advising my loved ones, I would take a pause on traveling to Mexico at this time, probably through the summertime at least.
All right. Very good. Thank you, retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton. Thank you very much for joining us here on Nashville's Morning News.
Absolutely delighted to be with you. Take care, Dan. Look forward to speaking with you again.